Joining us now on this special Thanksgiving S&P Presents show, a couple of Go-Goat Sports colleagues here. We're delighted to report as well. Darren Dreger will be back with us on Wednesdays this year, and Ray Ferraro will be joining us Fridays from the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, now in Season 4. Good to see you both. Thanks for making time here, guys.
Yeah, good to be seen.
Season 4. Season 4 of you guys getting along. Did you think that you guys could do this for 4 seasons?
4 episodes, 4 seasons is a bit of a stretch.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't concerned about getting along. I was just concerned whether anybody wanted to listen for 4 years.
That's still a concern.
Turns out they do. and they're going to be listening more this year, is my understanding, huh? A couple episodes a week.
Yeah, that would you not say, Dregs? That was one of those things in August. Seems like a fabulous idea. Hey, let's do 2. Yeah. And then we're like, oh my gosh.
Well, and we shouldn't pull the curtain back entirely, but we're kind of cheating a little bit. I mean, yes, of course, there are 2 episodes, and we do them on separate days. Ooh. However, really what we did was break the podcast in half, right? Ooh. So you've got the majority of headlines early in the week and the guest. You know, normally we'd have a weekly guest, but we still have a weekly guest, but that's in the second podcast. So it's not quite as heavy lifting in both.
Well, it's a perfect job for Ray Ferraro because it involves no air travel. No passports are needed.
Yeah.
Do you know that the requirements crossing the border changing was a major boon to my season?
No more test kits?
Oh, I couldn't even tell. Like everybody else, you know, after a while, you test, you do your thing. But I was like, I wonder how many of these I've done this year at the end of last year. And I started the count and then I quit. And I was like, I can't go any higher.
No nose hair left, right? It's just all been worn away from going up
clean,
and down.
Very clean, very clean.
What do you want for your birthday, Ray? Different border restrictions.
That's it.
New nose hair.
Yeah.
A nose hair transplant.
Well, fellas, thanks for joining us again. We did this in person last year, so hopefully the year will come where we can do it in person again. But appreciate you making times from both your abodes there. Yeah. We're talking Vancouver Canucks today, and Ray, we'll start with you and Dregs after that. Just what are your expectations for this Canucks team this season?
It's funny. The expectations for me changed when a little bit when I saw the way they played the back half of the season in particular. There's so much angst around this market all the time and around the team all the time. I look at the Western Conference and I think they should be a playoff team. I like the addition of Mikheyev. I think people will really like him. We'll get into him a little later. Miller, is he a 99-point guy? Probably not, but that really doesn't matter. If he settles into 80 points and Pettersson takes an expected jump, then you're kind of in the same place. I've said this before, the defense, I'm sure everybody would like it to be better. And I think what you got a class case in is how hard it is to improve it. And just where are you going to find them? You can say, they got to go get a top 4 defenseman. Oh, really? You think so? Yeah. And who's giving you that? The backbone of it all, though, for them, whether they're a playoff team or not, is I think they've got one of the best 5 or 7 goalies in the game. I think Demko is fantastic. And if they can get enough out of their backup position, I think there's plenty of points there that the Canucks will be a playoff team.
Dregs, concur?
I concur. I think the potential is there for the Vancouver Canucks to be a playoff team, but there are a number of questions that require answers, obviously, right? Yeah. If we look at the here and now as you brace for the cusp of the start of the regular season, there's still talk of lack of structure in the game of the Vancouver Canucks. And when you talk a lack of structure, then you're talking about coaching. And it feels like that storyline isn't going to go away anytime soon. I believe that, management still has confidence in Bruce Boudreau. I don't think that is shaken in any way, shape, or form. I dispute anyone who says there's friction or there's any sort of animosity between senior management, especially, and the coaching staff. But there needs to be more of that structure employed by the Vancouver Canucks. Otherwise, Patrick Galvin is going to have to address some of the concerns they may have going into the season. And that injury aside, you look at that defense. They like the way it looks on the left side. Aren't so sure on the right side. Would they like to add a defenseman? Are they going to have to add defense? Well, again, that takes us back to whether or not they play with the structure that management and the head coach would like and expect this team to play with.
I guess the other complication to that, Dregs, is if you're going to improve the defense, how are you doing it? And where are you going? And that leads you into, like, there's never – I'll stop myself for a second. Nothing is ever one thing. Right. One thing leads into another that ties into another. And so if you're going to improve the defense and you can find a 5, 6, or 7 defensemen all over the waiver wire. You can find them all over the place. However, if you're looking at a significant ad, what are you trading? What are you giving to another team? And so that leads into Bo Horvat's contract. Like there's never, ever not another issue. And I'm not talking about the Canucks. I'm talking about any team. Everything, one problem can be solved, but that creates perhaps another issue. And they have to somehow work at what this team is, get people healthy to see what they are, and then make the evaluation to the structure and such that you're talking about.
And further to that, Dregs, big picture thinking. And again, people might think we're getting off the this season predictions, but you're right. It's all tied in. And the managers are at that 40,000-foot view, right, Dregs? And also, what if Kuzmenko's good? They'll probably want to hold on to him. Their salary added. So they're thinking of this sort of 24-month period, and they've got all this calculus to make, right?
No question about that. I mean, right now they love Kuzmenko. He's untapped. There's some things in the North American game, north-south, that he's going to have to learn, and the belief is that he will. They love him as a guy around the room and on the bench and around the organization because he's just a fun guy to be around, and he wants to learn. But beyond that, the Horvat contract is going to hang out there. Is it going to become a distraction for him? Maybe. You guys know this. I mean, the Canucks are in no hurry to sign Bo Horvat. They did not want to get into a situation where they had both JT Miller and Bo Horvat hanging out there. Well, they get Miller done. So now they're okay with Miller and Pettersson. They'd like to keep Horvat. He's a bit of a luxury, but there's no hurry there. So does that become a distraction? As Ray and I have often talked about on the podcast, some players are okay with playing with the uncertainty of contract. Others, not so much. Bo Horvat's a good dude, but let's see how he fares through the early goings here.
Yeah, I mean, Ray, you've already mentioned the angst of the market, and they're going into the season with their locker room leadership, their head coach and their captain, going into the final years of their deals. How do you think that is going to play out? Bruce pretty well, and you've been around here for Bo Horvat, and the market certainly. How do you see all this?
And you
playing
played
out?
in contract years too.
I'll start with the last one, Blake. I hated playing in my contract year. I hated it. I was nervous. I'd go 5 games without a goal. I think they're never going to sign me again. I'd be pissed off at the coach because he's not playing me again. But of course, he wasn't playing me because I hadn't scored in 5 games. But you always think you can never settle in. My personality could never settle in. Now, Bo's a different guy, and maybe he can handle that. And I will say you can see it pretty clearly in the way they press, the way they force, or the way they don't in the midst of a game. As far as the coach, with Bruce, the most dangerous thing a manager or a coach can do is show uncertainty because the players smell it right away. And if they get the coach is trying to coach to save his job, they get that right away. They smell that out right away. You need your leader to walk in, be sure of himself, be sure with his message. This might seem like a small thing, and look, Bruce is he's awesome. I mean, what a great guy to talk to. But he doesn't need to self-deprecate. Show confidence all the time. Be confident. He's coaching this game forever now. Forever. He's been really successful. Project that onto your team. And I think, Matt, to your point, is that becomes a strength. We're in this as a group. When a player's playing for a contract or a coach is coaching for one, guys smell it. And we always talk about, the best teams, they all plod along together. Well, that's what has to happen. I think the best example over that is Tampa Bay. In 2020, the team that started the year that won the Stanley Cup for the first of two had 25 players. They only have 14 left. Last year, they're going to the finals. Andre Palat knows he's not he's not coming back.
Right.
But they didn't let it seep into the room. Now, they didn't win, but damn, they were close. Like you cannot let that drag into the room. And that becomes incumbent on the guys that are in the spot. In this case would be Horvat and Bruce. Like it's up to them.
So, Dregs, what's that timeline? Your best guess, because you acknowledge there's not much to report on right now. But your best guess on the timeline then for how this would, in their best mind's eye for Jim Rutherford and Patrick O'Brien, how do you think they would wish it to play out?
Well, they'd like to keep Bo Horvat. They would, but it feels like if there's a concession required, it's going to have to come from the player's side, and I don't know what that looks like. Either in term or in money. But the messaging that I continue to get is that there's no hurry. And I'm sure that frustrates Bo Horvat and his agent, but that's the position of the Vancouver Canucks. And I don't suspect that that's going to change. So if the player softens in his demand, maybe
that's mid-season. That's mid-season, you're thinking? Sometime during the season?
I would think so, just because you don't want it to become more of a distraction, because inevitably we're going to have serious speculating on the trade value of Bo Horvat. I mean, that's just inevitable. That's obvious, right? So knowing Jimmy the way we know Jimmy and Patrick Allvin, as we get to know him as a NHL general manager, it would make sense that without drawing that deadline, pretty clear, that they would think, look, we got to know by midseason where this is headed so that we can initiate conversations and really see what the market is out there.
Because it's not going to get easier closer to the deadline.
No.
And the speculation, of course, is not going to get less. It just will continue to compound upon itself.
There's a little ad break.
Okay, fellas, this is maybe a more difficult question, but Elias Pettersson at forward, Quinn Hughes on defense, Thatcher Demko in goal. Ray, you've already said one of the 5 to 7 best goalies in the world. He actually got a Vezina vote last year, so finished tied for 7th in Vezina voting. Hughes was 13th in the Norris. And, of course, we all know Pettersson had the bad first half and rebounded beautifully in the second half. If you had to pick one of those three guys to take a big step forward, Ray, it seems like we've been here a couple of years now in this market in terms of, who's going to take the step into superstardom? Who would you bet on?
Well, I think it's a lousy odds, but I would bet on Demko because I think he's closer. I think it has to be Pettersson. I think we have a pretty good indication what Quinn Hughes is going to play like and the points he's going to put up. And Quinn will defend better each year because he will get a little more experience. He'll find out that how to get his body between a player's hands and the guy's body, so he'll separate easier. He'll use that skating will become a great defensive asset for him. But if Pettersson's a 65-point guy, the Canucks are in trouble.
Yeah.
He can't be, and I don't think he is. He got waylaid here the last couple of years and kind of lost the plot a little bit. I think there was pressure. There was the COVID years. There was the wrist stuff. And he just, I don't know, he just kind of got waylaid. I just think he's better than he's performed. I don't, and if he's a 65-point guy, they're in trouble. They need the step from him.
I agree wholeheartedly. When you look at Pettersson and more about what he hasn't done the last couple of seasons, I'd like to see him have a bit more swagger, a little bit more cockiness, and maybe those who know him a lot better than I say, no, he doesn't need any more of that. But he's got to find a way to deliver. And, split hairs a little bit. When you talk about superstardom, and maybe that's a tough description for any player, I don't know that he's got that level in him. If he does, then he's got to start showing it sooner rather than later. Quinn Hughes for me is right there, and if he has more, I concur with Ray. It'll be on the defensive side, but he seems to do everything but stop the puck right now. So the upside maybe comes in just a higher level of confidence if that's possible for Quinn Hughes. And I'm a big believer in Thatcher Demko. So it's Pettersson. I see tons of upside in him, but I need to see it come to fruition.
You know what, Dregs, if I can just piggyback on that, I think what has lost or has been lost in his game compared to that first year when he just kind of took us all by, oh my gosh, look how good he is. A tenacity to his game that just has not,
right.
It seems to have gone away. Like I thought there was I'm not talking with the puck. I'm talking about without it. I thought there was a Pavel Datsyuk quality to him. He kind of like slippery and he'd get his stick in and steal the puck and spin around and keep the offense going. And Datsyuk did that as well as anyone. By the way, my favorite player in the last 20 years to watch is Pavel Datsyuk. And I saw that in Pettersson. And I think if he can find that again, there's a level there that will spring out of that effort.
Mm-hmm. Is it a hot take, guys, to suggest that all three of those guys get nominated for one of the major trophies at one point in their career? Like, do all of them have that in them at one point? And I will say, personally, I think Pettersson's probably got the biggest jump to make in that regard.
Yeah,
and the other two are closer. But is it crazy to think that all three of them get nominated at some point?
So you're talking about the Hart? For
Probably
Pettersson?
the Hart. I mean, maybe there's a Selke possibility if he's going to live up to your Datsyuk comparison.
Well, to get nominated, so that means you're in the final three.
Yeah.
So seems pretty likely that Matthews and McDavid have a couple of those votes locked up for the next bit.
You're right. So it's one spot.
Yeah. So I'm going to vote no because I just think it's just so,
the odds.
So hard. And so that doesn't even include Makar or Draisaitl or McKinnon or on and on and on and on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Hot take, call it whatever you will. I think that Pettersson is going to be a very good player. I don't think he's going to be a great player. And to be in that camp with Matthews and McDavid and McKinnon and Draisaitl, go down the list, you've got to be a great player. He's not there.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, that's quite a select group.
We told you we wanted your 2 cents on Ilya Mikheyev. Ray, you've done a number of Leafs games over the years. Darren, I know you're involved there as well and got a first-hand look. Tell Canucks fans what kind of player, when we finally see him back on the ice, we're getting
I couldn't believe he got hurt. Couldn't believe he got hurt. I'm like, seriously, really?
Terrible.
So what you're going to get with Mikheyev is, first thing you're going to notice is he's big. Like he's a big guy. He covers the ice. Some big guys don't cover the ice. He's long, like he's got long arms. When he spreads his stick on the penalty kill, you're like, oh my God, the guy covered 15 feet.
Yeah.
Are you talking wingspan in front of Matt? You're talking wingspan in front of Matt. His favorite play, honestly.
Beautiful. Keep it going, Ray.
How dare you?
Exceptional skater, like blow away power speed. He will get shorthanded breakaways. Like he just skates away from people. The puck's on the boards. It's a little 50-50 puck. He just skates away from the guy that's chasing him. And then he's big. He's big and he leans in like he's not scared. He'll forecheck. He disrupts teams' breakouts. If you're looking for give and go, wrong guy. That's not his game. He's a transporter. He's a forechecker, and he'll get to the net. He'll probably miss some chances that you wish he wouldn't, but I think he's a 20-goal guy all day long because he's going to have opportunity, and he doesn't need power play to score the goals he scores. He's not necessarily a power play guy. He's actually kind of an odd fit on the power play.
Yeah, I'm a big fan for all the reasons that Ray just articulated. We joked about it in doing regional Toronto Maple Leaf games, the number of breakaways that he didn't score on. You guys remember Todd Marchand back in the day. I mean, I don't know if there was another player in the league that had more breakaways than him. He just couldn't finish, right?
Yannick Hansen here in Vancouver. Yeah, for sure. Comparison.
Oh, man.
But Mikheyev does so many other things well. Again, as Ray just talked about, that the good far outweighs the bad. You know what? For me, he's a bit of a throwback player, and I'm telling you that coaching staff and the brass of the Vancouver Canucks will concur with this because they're living it right now. You know he's skating. You know he's relatively close. Here's a guy that'll play if he's 60%. He just wants to play. You know, he'll deal with the injuries. He won't say a word. In fact, that was one of the issues that they had with him in Toronto was he wouldn't tell anybody how he was feeling. So he wants to play right now. He feels like he's ready. And the Canucks are going, okay, man, like just chill here a little bit. Like, let's be patient. Let's make sure that we get your issues looked after as best we can because we need you in better health. So he's a high character, heck of a hockey player.
Let's talk about sandpaper, guys, because, there's differing opinions on what level of grit, Jeff O'Neill will love this talk, of sandpaper you need to operate in the NHL these days. We already saw a little bit of his gurgle up because of the game out in Abbotsford and the hit from, I forget who hit
Niemelainen
Pettersson from behind. Yes.
From
behind. And there was a tepid response. Pearson got involved a little bit. And so the old schoolers are thinking, okay, then there needs to be more sandpaper. And the only guy that really drops the gloves is Luke Schenn. You don't want to lose a defenseman for 5 minutes. Dakota Joshua has been brought in. He's got size to him, but he's not a true resume fighter by any stretch of the imagination. Does it matter? Can this Canucks team currently constructed be tough enough to win the playoffs as long as they've got guys with the character like Mikheyev that are, play at all costs sort of thing? Is that good enough in today's NHL?
Well, I mean, we've long seen the fighter or the tough guy is kind
slugger,
of, yeah, he's gone. That's not in the game anymore. Yeah. I think the most unique player in the NHL is Tom Wilson. I don't think there's another guy in the NHL like Tom Wilson. No. Oh my gosh, if you could draft him and you got that monster that can fly and score 25 goals and scare people. Oh yeah, I want him on my wing and I want him on my team. I just don't think there's many players like that around. I will tell you, when I saw the hit the other night, I'd prefer that somebody jump in and initiate an altercation there as opposed to a clean hit. Because that was not a clean hit. Right. Like, I hate when I see a guy who's got to fight it after a clean hit. To me, it's like, tell the other guy to beat it. Like, you just made a clean hit. Why do you got to fight for it? Is there enough? The only thing you need to have is you need to be able to fight and win a puck. You need to have courage to get into a battle first and to stay in it. You need to be able to get to the front of the net and be willing to scrap for that puck or to defend the front of the net in your own end. As far as the fighting stuff, I don't know. I think that those days are gone.
They are. I mean, end of the day, you got to be able to play, right? As you guys are talking about this, I'm thinking about the Leafs again and Kyle Clifford and Wayne Simmons. I mean, there you've got two veteran, experienced forwards who have done more than their share of fighting in the National Hockey League, and they're going to kick and scratch every single game in this regular season just to make the lineup. Right? Just because there's going to be lots of games where they just don't believe they need that and they feel like they've got enough accountability. And then you see a throwback kid. I don't know how much you guys have paid attention to the Montreal Canadiens outside of Juraj Slafkovsky, but they've got a kid, Arbor Xhekaj, big defenseman that is making his way up. Played for the Hamilton Bulldogs, went to the Memorial Cup last year. Just a great story of a late bloomer finding, and he is tough as
and
nails. Mean, but he can play. Like, he's a good defenseman. He's got a bit of offensive upside to him. So if you have those players, man, you hold on for dear life. But if you're looking for them, there's still a few available. I don't see it as a necessity for the Canucks.
Okay, lastly here, guys, as we're nearly out of time, you both told us you like the Vancouver Canucks as a playoff team. Of course, the easiest way to do it is to get one of the three spots in your own division and not have to worry yourself about the Central and the wild card. So you tell me, how do you see the Pacific Division sizing up? And do you think the Canucks find that route into the postseason, or do you think they're going to have to battle it out with the others for those two wild cards?
No, I'm waiting for you.
You know why?
Rick.
Because
No, go ahead. I got the pause. I'm waiting for you.
The fact that one of you wants to go first is
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I'll tell you why I don't want to go first is, and I'd like to steal his information as much as it bothers me to do that. Is that at this part of the year, there's so much speculation, right? You're like you got to guess on so much, and you're like, geez, I don't know. Like, I think there are teams that are. I think the Canucks are like a lot of teams, in that the questions they have, they might be different in another place, but they're still there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, look, Calgary and Edmonton, do you see much weakness there? I sure don't. Like, geez, I think they're pretty, they're pretty good teams, and why would they be
in? But that third spot is wide open, right? Like
that's the whole spot. Is like which of those, where can you fight into there? Like, what I think Vegas is really good, but I don't know. Do you want to bet on their goalies? I sure don't.
No.
I think the biggest problem to them, honestly, making the playoffs in the division is LA.
Mm-hmm.
I think LA is good. They're a team I'm watching in the next week here, by the way. They've got about 9 or 10 defensemen that I don't know what they're going to do with them all. And one of their problems is they got a young guy in Brant Clark, who they play him on the left, they play him on the right. He's a right-handed shot, and they're like, oh my God, this guy's really good. And he's 19.
Yeah.
Problem is he can't go to the American League. He's got to go to junior or stay. So I think LA, they had Kevin Fiala. Adrian Kempe came into his own last year. They had Phil Deneau, who had a career year. I think that's a really, really good team. I don't know if the easiest way is in through the division. I don't know that. I think you got to, whatever you can take. Like, are you?
So you see the Central falling back a little bit here, Ray? Is that what I'm hearing?
So yeah,
I do. I don't know what Nashville's going to be. I mean, can UC Soros play 83 of 82 games again? I don't think so. I think that's. I wonder about Dallas. Everything went right for Robertson. Everything went right for Hintz, and can Ben and Sagan score enough to help out? I don't know. Winnipeg, I don't know. So I think it's conceivable that you could end up 4-4. I really do.
See, that was my entire hesitation was on 2 teams, LA and Minnesota, right?
Do you like Vegas, Dregs? You like Vegas?
Too many questions for me. Too many questions. I mean, they're obviously relying on, a few significant pieces to be the difference makers to offset what they don't have in goal. And because of the foibles, the struggles of the Vegas Golden Knights, it's questionable. There's reason to question whether or not they're going to get it back on track. LA would make me nervous, but they'd make me nervous as the Calgary Flames. Look, we look at Calgary, and rightfully so, we give Brad Treliving a ton of credit. I mean, he turned 2 star players into 2+ star players in Jonathan Huberdeau and Nazem Kadri and Mackenzie Weegar. But are we convinced Calgary is going to be better? I'm not. I just need to see it first. So I apply that same logic to LA. But I mean, Vancouver's going to have to they're going to have to do something special. All the questions that we talked about earlier here are going to have positive answers, or they're not going to be a playoff team, plain and simple.
You know what, Dregs? You mentioned Minnesota, and that just, sparked something. What if Marc-Andre Fleury gets hurt? Like last year they had Cam Talbot. This year they got Philip Gustafson.
Yeah. But that feels like that's what is needed, right? Is maybe an outside division team that struggles that we're not expecting to struggle.
Spencer Martin behind Thatcher Demko.
There are doomsday scenarios for the Canucks with 2 players actually using Demko.
Well, okay, and just think, so Washington signs Charlie Lindgren to a 3-year one-way deal at 1.1. Played 5 games last year. He's played 8 games in the last 2 years. Like, I know there's 32 teams, not like, when there was fewer, of course, there was more goalies around, but where did they all go?
I know.
Everybody seems to be in this, I think we're okay in net, but maybe not. And, Colorado, fabulous team. Alexander Georgiev.
Oof.
Just don't screw it up. Like that's basically, they're at the level of just don't screw it up.
Yeah.
Ray,
it's hard position.
Vancouver the last 2 years, Halak and Holtby, like two of the most credentialed guys that you would think. And backup goaltending's been a real problem. So you're quite right. That is a huge wild card. And I think Minnesota and LA, I think your fellas are also right there. I think those are the two teams that you wonder about. Can they replicate what they did last year? Marvelous stuff, gentlemen. Happy Thanksgiving. We wish you the best here in this hockey season, particularly Ray, as you're flying around the continent and on the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast Season 4. Thanks for this.
Thanks, Jess.
You bet, guys. All the best with your year, and we'll be talking to you. Oh, geez, every Friday for me.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good idea in August, right, Ray?
Yeah, can't wait. You, Dregs, Wednesdays? Woo!
Wednesdays. Looking forward to it. It's good stuff.